5 minutes after 10 o'clock, it's time for Ocala Magazine Radio. Your host, John Sotomayor, is here ready to do the show with you. Got some great guests. John, of course, is the executive editor of Ocala Magazine. And 1 year older than he was last time I saw him, too. Good morning, John. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Larry. A few days older. Yes, it was my birthday last weekend. Lots of fun. And speaking of fun, we had so much fun with the Meet the Writers for Ocala Magazine that we decided to continue the idea with Meet the Designers. So with me today, we have our designing team at Ocala Magazine. I'm going to go right into introductions. First, we have Jessie Miller. Good morning, Jessie.
Good morning.
We have Amber Laudicina.
Hi.
Both have been former creative directors and are contributing graphic designers. And we have our new creative director, Andrew A.J. Epstein.
Hi, how are you doing?
All right, thank you all for being here today. Like before with the writers, most of our listeners and viewers and readers are not familiar with the actual persons behind the work. They're familiar with the work itself. But we have such a dynamic, talented team that I wanted people to get to know who they are. So first, let's start with Jessie. Jessie, tell us a little bit about your background.
My background is it's about just as old as Photoshop. So I started in the advertising business right around when people were moving over to computers from Paste-Up and using Photoshop. So I was in advertising for a long time, and then I went into publishing. I had my own magazine in South Florida, and since then I've been in a mix of both advertising and publishing, which really are hand in hand anyways.
Absolutely. And here in our local area, you've been very busy, both in the art world and publishing. Tell us about that.
I have. I am an artist. I have an art show tonight, and I used to have a studio downtown.
Where's the art show?
The art show is at the Irish Rose Gallery downtown.
And it's part of the first Friday?
It's part of the First Friday Art Walk, and tonight is the sort of season finale of that until September. There won't be another one.
Okay.
And that's at 6 o'clock tonight.
Excellent.
And yeah, so I had a studio, and I've got a design firm, and I've got a gajillion Addy awards.
That's right.
And,
actually, you are a silver Addy winner.
It's actually, yeah, that's a silver medal, like not an Addy. That's the highest award that a local chapter can give anybody. It's for contribution to community, contribution to the advertising industry as a whole, and things like that. So it's a big honor.
Yes.
That I got. Yep.
Yeah, and your work stands for itself, the contributions you made to the magazine, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Thank you.
Let's talk to Amber. Amber, give us a little bit of a background about yourself.
Well, I am not quite as experienced as these two young folks here. Or old, I guess you should say. I am a local Rasmussen graduate. I have been in the print industry for over 6 years. I worked for a local company here in town for a couple of years as doing product design. I've worked with Betty Crocker and many other objects that you would buy in store. That you would definitely have seen my work. I also am a very avid photographer.
Yes, very good photographer.
And I've actually have not only designed with Ocala Magazine, but I have also shot for the magazine, which has definitely pushed me to further limits. And I guess the biggest thing that I could say that I've ever accomplished is I was a congressional art show winner
wow, tell
here
us about
in town.
That.
Well, one person from every district out of the entire United States gets chosen, and I beat out all of the schools of the entire 6th district. Mm-hmm. And my painting that I did hung in Washington, D.C. for a year.
Fantastic.
That's great.
That's amazing.
And I won a $12,000 scholarship.
Fantastic.
To go to art school. So
excellent. And what's the name of your photo studio?
My photography studio is called Amberlin Studios, and I am local here.
Okay. And Jessie, you're also your company?
Little Black Mask Marketing.
Okay, thanks. And now we'll focus on Andrew. Andrew, can you give us a little background about yourself?
Sure. I started out in the magazine industry as an assistant to the legendary Art Paul at Playboy Magazine, and also worked with Bea Feitler, who was designed Rolling Stone and Ms. Magazine. Worked with Deanne Arbus, the photographer, amazing lady. Had a number of career moves in print and publishing, and also I'm in marketing and advertising. So I was the creative director for World Publications in Orlando for a long time, but that was punishment for something I did in another life, apparently.
Well, World Publications has a distinction. It was one of the largest publications
yes,
out
it was. And it is no longer. But it was an interesting experience. And I also was the art director for The Limited in their marketing department for over 700 stores at the time, and even was the art director for the Craft Test Kitchens, and my product line was Velveeta cheese and Tombstone pizza. So if you buy a Tombstone frozen pizza, you will see my art direction.
That's right, and your art direction is pretty much visible everywhere. We've been walking around, and it's come up several times.
Yes.
You recently transplanted from Los Angeles.
Yes, I moved here from Los Angeles, and I'm not crazy. I did it for a reason.
A good reason.
I had to get out of the fast lane. I was sitting in my fabulous meditation and yoga class with Sherry Ray Russell, and it came to me that the fast lane was just killing me. And I had several, I published my own books, photo books, and I had several books in the works, and just couldn't get them done there. So I really wanted to go somewhere else where I could concentrate on publishing, my publishing company, and also felt that I could contribute quite a bit to Ocala magazine. And I had known Linda for about 10 years, so it was not unfamiliar to me. And I said yes.
Good. And you have a couple of books with right now. Well, there's one right now. Tell us about that.
Well, the one that's out right now is called The Blonde Bomber, and it's about my adventures when I skated in roller derby back in the 70s. And I skated, I shot the book, I wrote the book, and I published the book and designed it. And it's a very popular book, and I'm very happy about it.
And already in your first 2 weeks that you've been here, you've already hooked up with the Ocala Cannibals.
Yes, there's a team here in Ocala, and people need to go out there and support these people. The Ocala Cannibals, they're great.
Awesome.
You know?
Awesome. All right, we've had a lot of fun times with the magazine over the past year or so. I want to focus on some of the memories that you have. What are some of the behind-the-scenes things that you remember most? Jesse?
Yeah, well, I'm fortunate enough to have a good 10-year perspective. I came here to Ocala Magazine in 2003, so we've definitely had a lot of fun. One memory that definitely stands out to me, I've got a couple that I'll mention, but is it must have been at least 6 years ago. We did a story called Black on Black, where we got a round table together of African American people of all different ages and experience and backgrounds.
I remember that one. Great story.
Yeah, and so I was art director for that story, so for the shoot and the layout and everything else. So I was there during the round table, and I was in tears, not sobbing, but I mean it was really moving to hear what they were talking about. So that's one of my favorite things about being in publishing is the communication and the storytelling and the fact that we can tell people stories and talk about important things. So that's just one of my favorite memories was working on that story. And a little funnier and more recent, last year when we did our 40 under 40 shoot.
Yes, that's right, which is coming up, by the way.
Just getting 40 really energetic people together in the course of 3 days, scheduling them, that's difficult enough, but... the concept that we had was that they were going to have this scarf. They were going to either be pulling each other, tug-of-war with it, or it was going to be waving in the wind or whatever it was. And our really fun stylist, Maureen Fannin, was there on the outskirts of every single one of 40 people, pulling on that scarf really hard and then, waving it around in the air and doing all this stuff. And just the amount of energy it takes, it's kind of crazy what we do, but that was a really fun memory.
Yeah, that was really good. How about you, Amber? What was your favorite moments?
As Jesse, I actually have a couple. Working with Ocala Magazine, I've been able to go beyond what I thought was a limit for me, and I not only have been able to help design the magazine, but also, like I said, shoot for it. And I did the cover of the April Ocala Magazine. I not only found the model, did the makeup on the model, set the shoot up for the model, and shot her and designed everything. The process of it is exhilarating.
Right.
And it's just so exciting because you not only get to say, wow, that is, that's my work that I did that, but you really, really, really can say it genuinely is your work, because it isn't, you're not just designing other people's photographs into one section and somewhat calling it yours. It's being able to call it as a whole as yours. And one of the biggest projects that I got to work on, if you remember the story called The Wild.
Yes, February's issue.
It was a very incredibly fun thing to do, because we had to, it was cold. It was if we remember, Jesse,
yeah.
It was cold, it was raining, and you would not believe that we actually shot this poor girl in the middle of sawgrass. And my back
getting cut up.
Yeah, she was getting cut up, and I didn't realize this, and she was such a trooper.
Yeah.
And
such a pro.
She's
yes.
fierce. What's her name?
Yes.
Her name is Toshi.
Shout out to Toshi.
Yeah, shout out to Toshi. She works at the mall. But she did such a fantastic job. She didn't complain, and she gave us everything, and she totally was fierce. And you would never know that there was a dog park sitting right behind her. It looks like she literally was in the middle of the jungle.
That's
and
right.
I did her makeup. I shot her, we put her in the story, and it was just so much fun. And it was great to have Jesse along, too, to help me with this process of art direction.
It's the teamwork, right? That makes it so much fun to work together.
We had so much fun.
The one I remember most, my favorite memory, Jesse, was doing the October 2012 shoot. The Zombies and the Mummies. That was so much fun.
Favorite issue.
First of all, people need to know how this came about. You and I were just chatting on our way back from getting coffee somewhere, and we're trying to decide what we're going to do with the medical issue, and we decided we wanted to make medical fun, but also combine it with October, and what we were going to do. And we're like, I know, let's make it about monsters. And you're like, yeah, we need to do something with zombies. And, and we're like, what? And we're like, prescription drugs, And then we said, let's do
we wanted a mummy on the cover.
A mummy on the cover, right. That's how it started.
What are we going to do with that? I'm like, plastic
surgery. Of course. And that's how the brainstorming process was working. And then it was from there making it happen, implementing it, finding the models, the location, and all that. And we worked with various departments to get that done, including the city of Ocala to get the proper locations.
Yes, we shot on location at the cemetery.
That's right. And weird hours, I think. Eerie hours.
Every hour is weird in the cemetery.
And just acquiring the models and the makeup. And what I remember was when you storyboarded the whole idea, what the model was going to look like, and the fact that the finished product looked exactly like the original concept was just thrilling to me.
I think every month, I must say this over and over, it's just, I love it when the plan comes together. It seems to me there's a point in the middle of any big project where I think it's never going to work like we think. It's not going to happen. And, by the grace of God, it does. It works out. It's great.
Another one that comes to mind was the mermaid shoot. Getting that perfect shot of the mermaid underwater. You got to tell the story, Jesse.
Yeah, this was definitely one of my very favorite experiences. We were doing a travel story, and a lot of the destinations, well, I think all of them were water oriented, and so I was just, I want a mermaid on the cover. I just want to do a mermaid. I really think it would be great. But and then you go into the process of how do you portray a mermaid? Do you just sort of, we want a real I want a mermaid, an actual mermaid. So we found them at Wikiwachi.
Wikiwachi.
Yeah. Which is very close by, and so our photographer was a little insecure. I remember he was like, "Really, a mermaid?" Like I'm like, "You just, I believe in you."
Yeah.
We're driving down there on a Saturday morning, and this mermaid, this girl, was amazing. They are, this is their job. Their actual title is mermaids, so they really are. They are underwater.
They're trained to breathe underwater.
Yeah, and it's cold water where she was down there for the limit that she could be without being dangerous to her health because it's so cold.
Mm-hmm.
So she didn't surface for 30 minutes and just occasionally breathing out of this tube and then dropping it and just being absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And posing for us as another mermaid was inside on a microphone directing her left, right, whatever it was, up, down, and she's hovering in the water and looking stunning. at the end, when we got the shot, and well, you know, all of the shots, and we put it on the cover, it looked so surreal and so retouched. And honestly, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
This is exactly how she looked. Her makeup was perfect. Her hair was perfect.
Her eyes.
She was a mermaid under there. It was amazing. It was really fun.
Another thing that's amazing is the collaboration between the words and the images. We work very closely together, and what I loved is taking the finished word product, submitting it to you, and then seeing what you're going to choose. And there's certain words that jump out on you, and you make an image out of it. The one I'm thinking about is the Cuba story, where we mentioned that it was a doorway open to another land, and you actually incorporated the whole open door image from the inside of the house to opening up to Cuba. That was beautiful.
Right. Well, you know, I mean, the whole thing about magazines, again, like I said, is communication and storytelling. And so my end of it is the visual story, and to always tell the exact same story that you're telling with words, but with, well, all of our ends of it, you know, to tell that same story with visuals, and, you know, use the photography as support, and you use the typography as support, and you use the page itself and the negative space, and everything there should be there for a reason. If you've got the time to think about it and do it right, it does. And the whole thing subliminally, even if the reader isn't realizing it, everything there should be supporting that story.
Absolutely. And usage and style changes with time. Over the years, Ocala Magazine, like any other publication, has changed its look, its feel, its voice. And now that we have AJ here, we're going to be in store for some new great changes. He's got years of experience, so we're all delighted and eager to see what you're going to come up with. So why don't you give us a sneak peek for our listeners about what you have in mind?
Well, I think it'll be a lot more visual. I love the use of photography, and I've discovered we have a fantastic photographer named Chris Red.
That's right.
Who works for us, whose work is spectacular, and I'm going to be featuring him quite a bit. I also work with a lot of well-known photographers who are going to contribute, I hope, and a lot of artists. I like to discover artists and work with artists and writers, and going to bring their work in. One of the most exciting things I've seen in Chicago and in New York and LA and Fresno and Stockton are the zine fests and the Comic-Cons, and there's a lot of incredible talent there. Some of my most successful artists, illustrators, were tattoo artists, and hope to be incorporating and discovering some local talent and bringing them into the magazine.
And that we have, AJ. We have plenty of tattoo artists here, great artists here. Plenty will be there tonight. Again, you know, come out to the First Friday Art Walk, or we'll all be there. I'll be there. I'll be the one with the blue shirt and the yellow tie. So if you're out there tonight, say hi to me. I'd be happy to talk to you. Let's look at what are some of the latest trends in magazines. We have three bright minds here with lots of experiences and ideas. What have you noticed that are the latest things out? You want to start, AJ?
Me?
Yeah, we'll work around this way.
Well, like I said, I am just amazed by the zine fests that are going around the country. I truly was not plugged into it at first, and I've just been blown away by the work that I've seen people doing, and I'm sure it exists here as well. It's just you have to dig for it and you have to find it. You have to do that in LA too. You have to do it in Chicago, but it's there. It's an incredible movement, and I think there's some incredible artists and writers that are coming out of there. So that amazes me, and I would like to see some of that incorporated in the magazine to tell a story.
Excellent.
It's an unusual and interesting way of doing it.
Excellent. Jesse?
Yeah, what's fun for me is to watch the digital trend, which of course has been happening for a while, but to watch it hand in hand with print and to see that print isn't going anywhere. Rather like AJ just referred to, the zines and the Comic-Cons, and these are things that are really tangible and really personal and really small in their circulation, so it's not all necessarily having to be this international thing on the web. Like, it's really valuable still to see the local market in your hand, the stories right there. But I love to see also how they work in conjunction with digital, and how much so you can mix the two now in a way that you never could before. You know, taking national and international stories and advertisers and different things, and just mixing them right together in the same place and being where everybody is, be it online or in person. So I love those trends.
Yeah, that's very exciting. We've gone to some of the expos together and seen the latest technologies. A bit pricey for our region right now, but what's out there in the market is phenomenal.
I think on a daily basis it gets more accessible and less pricey. I think everything is just going to really be at your fingertips pretty soon.
Yeah.
It's great.
My favorite was the image where it's a still and then you press it or something and it almost comes to life.
Oh, augmented reality.
Augmented reality,
That's
yes.
super fun. Yes, that's not quite within our range to do all the time, but there's a fabulous example out there for Esquire magazine did with Robert Downey Jr. If anybody just wants to Google it, and you'll get a good example of what we're talking about.
Yeah, and what happens to the image when they...
Well, you just, you have it in your hand, you have the magazine, and then if you hold it in front of your webcam, it's reading it sort of like a QR code would, and it's taking you to this other site that interacts with what you're doing. So as you hold it, what you're seeing tilts. If you tilt it, and Robert Downey Jr. in that one example, he just, booyah, he just pops out at you and starts talking about, and things start spinning around him, and it all interacts with the way you are interacting with the magazine.
That's incredible.
Really spectacular. Yeah.
So exciting to see what's going to happen. How about you, Amber? What have you noticed in terms of trends?
Well, there's this rumor that goes around that paper is going to end, and we're never going to see it again. And
not going to happen.
Yeah, that is not going to happen. Like Jesse said, I really enjoy that you not only get to hold the magazine in your hand, but I'm also seeing the trend of being able to have access to everything online, which makes that great because you can be on the go and you can read the magazine, or you don't have the magazine with you, but say, hey, I want to check out that story that everybody's talking about, and you can go online and see it. Another trend that I'm also seeing, I'm sure that as artists we hear a lot, is people are getting photoshopped too much. People are photoshopping too much. And, you just gotta love that word Photoshop.
Right.
It's just a verb.
Folks, it's
now.
not a word. Photoshop is not a word. I'm really liking that I'm starting to see in magazines that they're doing less Photoshop of faces. I believe in
more
some,
natural.
Yeah, and more in some areas overseas, they can't retouch a photo unless they state so. So I'm really liking that we're starting to see a little bit more real people and getting to see what they really look like, and the typography is starting to really amaze me. I really love the typography. It's something that really pops to me, and to be realistic and beauty. People see beauty in magazines. Wow, I really wish I could look like that. But deep down inside, oh, it's photoshopped. It's photoshopped. But I really, like I said, that's starting to get less and less a little bit, and you're starting to see people's natural, true beauty, and that's what I think our young generation needs to start seeing to feel that they're beautiful and feel beautiful inside.
Speaking of our young generation, in our last 3 minutes here, if you each take a minute, what you've all served an inspiration to others. What would you send as your message to young graphic designers out there who want to achieve what you've achieved? AJ, we'll start with you.
Well, I came from a different world, so the way I came up doesn't really exist anymore. But what I've always done is I like mentoring young designers and photographers and writers and artists. And some people did it to me. One of my biggest mentors was Allen Ginsberg. He was one of my best friends, and I learned so much about writing and about photography. Interestingly enough, he was a great photographer. And so I carry that message, and I pass it along, and I have a lot of information, and I love to give it to people. So I'm hoping I can do that here. I like teaching, too, so I do that as well.
Well, there's definitely teaching opportunities here. Jesse, you've taught some classes, and so have other designers from Ocala Magazine.
I have, and I've mentored some people, and continue to do that as much as possible, yeah.
Wasn't Amber one of your students at one point?
Oh, I don't think I had Amber. No. Okay. She was right there in that class.
She would have been a great teacher.
Jesse, what would you send the message?
I think that what's really important. There's a tendency to think that you're a professional because you have a piece of software in front of you and a computer. and because that's how things are done right now. And so I think it's really important to not get away from working hard and learning the history of design, learning what it all really means, learning the psychology of it, learning marketing. There's no substitute for that, no matter how well you know Photoshop or any other program. Just to really understand the business is very important. And the more you do, the more you're going to stand out, because so many people don't right now.
Absolutely. And I think AJ would agree that knowing the history of the subject, the industry, that is very important to somebody.
Sure, it's absolutely important, and I find that lacking. Actually, in LA, that was one of the biggest things I found, was that they just didn't understand any history, and they didn't really have any experience in publishing. Mm-hmm. But if anybody out there has a portfolio and they want to show me some work,
that's right.
Call me up at the magazine. I'll be glad to take a look at it.
That's right. And Amber, you have the final word. What's your message to other young graphic designers out there?
Well, being a local graduate here from Ocala, the only thing that I could really suggest is, like AJ said, find more experienced artists, and you got to really push yourself. You can't expect people to actually come to you and find you. If you want this, you have to prove yourself, and you have to fight it. This world that we work in is, you kind of like see those signs, the starving artist. You have to really fight for it, and there's always someone else behind you nipping at your heel that can just as easily come right up and swoop it from underneath of you.
So always be on top of your game.
Yes.
Stay busy.
Stay busy. Well, thank you all. Those are great words to follow, and those words serve for any industry, really. So thank you all for being here today and being on my show, and thank you, Larry and Robin.
Thank you.
So good. Why don't you love me like I know you could?
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Life jackets save lives. Where in Florida? Times of clouds and sunshine today. Breezy and warmer. A shower or thunderstorm around through the evening hours. High 87 to 91. Partly to mostly cloudy and muggy later tonight. Low 70 to 74. Tomorrow, variable cloudiness. Couple of showers and a thunderstorm or two. The high 86 to 90. Sunday, clouds and sun with a shower or thunderstorm. High 86 to 90. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
On the next Voice of Ocala, it's Community Gazette Day live from Gateway Bank. We'll bring you up to date on all the storm damage from around the area as Tropical Storm Andrea has moved through and moved on. We'll tell you where she is, what she did, and how Ocala came through. Plus, in sports, we'll give you an update on what happened with the Miami Heat and the San Antonio Spurs in the first round of the NBA Finals. All that and more on the next Voice of Ocala on 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, streaming live at WOCA.com. The Source.
Hi, this is Brad, one of the hosts of Winging It here on WOCA every Friday at 9 a.m. I want to take a moment to talk about a serious issue regarding aviation.